Madam President, I had a visit yesterday from a group of parliamentarians from Lithuania. Lithuania has a special place in my heart. It's where my mother was born, and I've been fortunate enough to visit there several times over the last 40 years. I saw Lithuania in its darkest days as part of the Soviet Union, and I watched their heroic struggle against the odds to win independence from the Soviet Union. I've been there to see their free government installed again and to watch this amazing little country grow into a powerhouse, not just economically, culturally, but spiritually. And I say that because I believe that time and again, Lithuania has stepped up to the international challenge. It was my honor to work to bring NATO alliance status to the Baltics, and certainly to Lithuania, and it's made all the difference in the world. When I think of Vladimir Putin's unprovoked attacks on Ukraine, I can't help but believe that the Baltics would have fallen to Putin and his aggression long ago if he had his way. What held him back was not just the courage of the people who live there, but the fact that they had many friends willing to stand behind them, members of the EU and certainly members of the NATO alliance. Lithuania has taken their role in the alliance so seriously. They have pledged soldiers and military support time and again when the NATO alliance has picked a targeted strategy. They're always part of the answer, and glad to be. They have dedicated 2.5% of their annual budget to the military. I believe they rank third in the NATO ranks in percentage of budget that they are dedicating to the defense of their country. They may be small, but they're mighty. And yesterday, the group that came to see me, led by the new Lithuanian ambassador, Audrey Plepytė, included Lukas Savickas, Deputy Chairman of the Committee for the Future, Jonas Gerudis, Deputy Speaker of the Parliament, and Mr. Zygmuntas Pavlonis, Deputy Chairman of the Committee on European Affairs. We talked about the current situation in Ukraine. They feel it personally, but they also feel personally the aggression of Vladimir Putin. Not far from Lithuania is a part of Russia to the west of Lithuania known as Kaliningrad. Kaliningrad is a military fortress established by the Russians on the doorstep of Lithuania and Poland. It is a source of growing concern because of the armaments which we believe are in place there and their threat to the region. That's why NATO has made special plans for the Baltics to reinforce a commitment which includes German troops that are now helping out in Lithuania, Canadian troops in Latvia, and British troops in Estonia. That sort of commitment is one that needs to be reinforced. I am going to ask that our government consider strengthening that commitment in the future. We're working on the details now. But the Baltics are a critical element in the region, not only our friendship and our alliance, but in the future. I support the accession of Finland and Sweden to NATO. I hope that that is agreed on at the NATO summit in Madrid in just a few weeks. I believe that that will help the Baltics as well to have that solid neighbor in Finland as part of the NATO alliance. It is interesting to note that what has happened since the invasion of Ukraine is exactly the opposite of what Vladimir Putin expected. He thought Ukraine would be a pushover. It is far from that. The courage and bravery and resilience of those Ukrainian people have fought back the mighty Russian military machine time and time again. They were no pushover, and they never will be. And the day will come when they have their peace and sovereignty restored from this aggression. Secondly, I'm sure Putin thought when this was all over, his dream of restoring the Russian Empire would mean that they would be stronger than ever. But daily reports tell that the sanctions are taking their toll on the economy of Russia, and not just in the short term. I was in Moscow, and I remember the early days and the arrival of the first McDonald's restaurant. It was in Soviet times, and it was an amazing event to think that this Western corporation would locate a restaurant in Moscow in the middle of the Soviet Union, and they did. I can remember the dreary, dark, gray scenes in Moscow, interrupted and punctuated by those golden arches. as a reminder that the West was going to show to the people of Moscow what was available under a free economic policy and a free society. Sadly now, McDonald's Corporation has made the right decision to pull out of Russia. Hundreds of restaurants will be closed as a result of it. It's an indication to the people of Russia that they have to make a choice about their future. Do they want to go down the dark and perilous road with Vladimir Putin, or do they want to emerge as a 21st century free country that is inspired by democracy and not by authoritarianism? I thank my friends in Lithuania who time and again have stood by us and we by them to make sure that they continue to, whether it's making certain that the legitimate presidential candidates in Belarus have safety and refuge in their country, or making certain that they speak up for human rights in places around the world where others fear to tread. They've done that time and again, and they will continue to. I'm looking forward to my return to that country soon. I've been there many times, and I hope to be back soon. Just this weekend, Sweden and Finland declared their intention to apply for rapid NATO membership, and who can blame them? At the Munich conference, I spoke with Finnish President Sauli Niinisto. What an amazing person. He enjoys an 80 or 90% approval rating, a dream of every politician, and they're talking about waiving the constitutional limitation on terms in office so he can serve another term. He was an appellate lawyer, which doesn't sound like a very exciting lot in life, but when he became president, he really understood the people of Finland and has led them with wisdom and thoughtful leadership. He's attempted to maintain a constructive relationship with Putin. If you read the history of Finland, you can understand how they managed to stay somewhat neutral during the Cold War, when many countries couldn't even imagine that possibility. And despite their proximity to the Soviet Union, they managed to pull it off. That relationship with Putin, though, has been shaken, if not destroyed, when Putin decided to invade Ukraine. Finnish President Niinisto said, when he spoke to Putin on the telephone, that he should look in the mirror. Those were his exact words, if he wanted to know why Finland was now considering membership in the NATO alliance. A few months ago, when I spoke to former Lithuanian President Valdas Adamkus about his historic efforts to bring Lithuania into NATO in 2004, he talked to me about the courage it took for him and for President Vytautas Landsbergis, who was, I guess, the originator of the Sąjūdis movement that made such a difference in the pursuit of freedom and democracy in Lithuania. They knew the importance, both of them, Landsbergis and Adamkus, in solidly embedding their nation in that defensive alliance and never again running the risk that they would lose everything overnight to the onslaught of Soviet and Russian aggression. Is it any wonder that these small but mighty Baltic states are some of the most vocal in defending democracy in Ukraine? They have lived it. They have been under the shadow of Russia and the Soviet Union for so many years and now finally stand proudly with their own sovereignty and their own human rights record. So I applaud Sweden and Finland's decision and hope we can approve their entry into NATO without haste. And here in the Senate, we have another immediate need as well, to pass this supplemental funding package for Ukraine. It is embarrassing to say that we had to wait a full calendar week in the midst of a bloody war where innocent people are dying and a nation has been driven and reduced to rubble, to sit here for a political purpose and wait for this week for the approval of the U.S. aid to Ukraine. It should have happened immediately last week. No excuses. I applaud the House of Representatives for taking quick and decisive action. This bill shouldn't be delayed in the Senate any longer. It's time for us to stand up once and for all and make it clear we are standing by Ukraine and the defense of democracy. Mr. President, I yield the floor.